So I picked up this beat up old benchtop vise. It was covered in rust, so I decided to restore it. I started by breaking it down, taking out all the nuts and bolts, unscrewing the handle, and taking out the jaws. Once all the parts were disassembled, I brought the big parts over to the drill press and went over the surface with a wire wheel. Tried to get rid of all the rust and old paint. That ended up taking way too long. The paint wasn't coming off very easily, so I wiped on some paint stripper on all the pieces to loosen up the paint before going back to the wire wheel to clean it up. That worked much better. I tried the same thing with the main shaft, but there was just too much rust for the wire wheel to take off, so I switched to the random orbit sander instead. I went from 60 grit sandpaper all the way up to 220 grit. You can see how quickly the sander eats through the rust, and in no time at all, the piece looks good as new. I followed the same process for all the other pieces that would have exposed metal, working my way up from 60 grit sandpaper all the way up to 220 grit sandpaper. Then I buffed all the surfaces on the drill press with the wire wheel. For all the smaller pieces, I put them in a small container and soaked them in white vinegar to help loosen the rust. After 24 hours, I drained the vinegar, rinsed the parts with cold water, and dried them off. Then did a quick pass on the wire wheel to clean them up. For the jaws of the vise, I used my rotary tool with a cutoff disc to carefully grind in between the rows of teeth to reprofile them. With all the parts cleaned up, I taped them off and applied a few coats of military green spray paint. With the paint dry, I ripped off all the tape and started assembling it back together. Once I started reassembling the vise, I realized I didn't have any grease to lubricate the moving parts, so I'll come back later to add some. I attached the main body to the base, then added the inner jaw, making sure to add the jaws for the vise and the jaws for the pipe clamp as I went along. Follow the same steps for the outer jaws, adding the jaws first before sliding the outer assembly into the main body. With both jaw assemblies installed, I threaded the handle back in and secured the nut on the opposite end. Then reinstalled the cotter pin. This allows the assembly to rotate completely. And with that, the vise was done and looking as good as new. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.